Hello, and welcome to Bloom Big Day, our 29th year gathering together in May to support local women and children. Today is a special day for raising critical funds for nonprofit programs, honoring tradition, and helping our community bloom together for a brighter tomorrow. First, I'd like to thank our corporate partners, many of whom have been longtime luncheon supporters and are now year-round partners, showing their commitment to our future. Our work in this community to award grants and scholarships is only made possible because of their support. We're approaching a milestone year, having awarded over $6 million in the community since our inception. Year after year, we've stayed dedicated to raising funds for local nonprofits. During this critical year, we've pledged to award the largest amount in our history, approximately $360,000, and we're elated to do so. The funds raised today will go directly to these 17 nonprofits and 5 scholars selected as our 2021 recipients. At Women Helping Women Fund, we're grant makers. We believe in nonprofits that they solve the problems, but they need the capital to drive change. In addition, we believe in education. So we grant scholarships to mothers juggling the cost of tuition for themselves and childcare costs for their children. We're also change makers. We follow the data and shine a light on the areas of greatest concern, allowing us to proactively confront challenges and track need over time. And lastly, we're go-getters. We're building a new kind of giving community where each of you can participate in this rewarding grant-making process right alongside us.
Collective giving is a rapidly growing philanthropic movement across the globe. We are strongest when we learn, grow, and give together. Women Helping Women Fund has utilized collective giving for decades through the annual luncheon, and this new iteration gives you the opportunity to be more involved in our work and the work of our grantees. Here's how. Pool your donation with others to make an even greater impact. You help to award grants to benefit many local nonprofits. Participate in our Nonprofit Connect and Spotlight sessions to deepen your understanding and help you make informed decisions during the voting process. And then vote each year to help choose which issues will be the focus of the grant cycle and which nonprofits will receive support with the pooled contributions. Join the collective giving community with a pledge of $25 or $50 per month to magnify your impact. It's also worth noting that Women Helping Women Fund is a no-guilt organization, and we mean it. There's no required time commitment or meetings. We want to meet you where you are and make it easy to engage. Visit our website to learn more or join today. What a challenging year it has been. Challenging, unprecedented, and impactful. Women have been affected in so many ways. We've had to become teachers for our children, juggling our day-to-day priorities from the walls of our homes, all while managing the stress of the unknown and the instability of the pandemic. But this isn't where the story ends. Since 1993, our community has come together at the annual luncheon to raise funds to help women and children reach their full potential. We are encouraged that you have joined us today. Your support shows that Spokane will continue to come together as we recover from the pandemic. Honoring the tradition of the luncheon, we are excited to host a conversation with a strong and impactful speaker. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome longtime luncheon MC and 4 News Now Chief Meteorologist, Chris Crocker.
Hello, I'm Chris Crocker with 4 News Now, and I'm excited to welcome you to this conversation with Women Helping Women Fund. Today, we're honored to welcome Ginger Zee. Ginger is the chief meteorologist with ABC News, reporting on the nation's weather on Good Morning America and across ABC News broadcast and digital platforms. Since joining ABC News, Ginger has covered almost every major weather event and dozens of historic storms. And her passion does not stop with storm chasing. Her love of adventure has taken her and ABC News viewers across the world. Ginger has a genuine passion for the atmosphere and a dedication to getting young people interested in science. Additionally, Ginger is a New York Times bestselling author, a mental health advocate, wife to TV personality Ben Aaron, and mother of 2 young sons.
Well, we're just going to dive right in. I know your time is precious. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
you are the first female chief meteorologist for ABC News, a huge accomplishment. And at this time where we're so focused on getting girls into STEM, tell us about how you were drawn to the atmospheric sciences that led you to this path.
Well, you and I didn't have STEM. We didn't have something to call it. So I'm so glad there's an acronym now. But I was lucky enough to spend a summer on Lake Michigan. I lived close to Lake Michigan, but we spent a summer out there, and I was able to every day watch clouds or thunderstorms, or even at one point water spouts come across the lake. And if anybody knows the Great Lakes, they look like when I storm chase the Great Plains, you can see for miles. They look just like the ocean. And so I was able to, unobstructed have a vision of the atmosphere. And I would always watch, and I had a lot of questions like, why did the thunderstorms this time not make it to here? And they went away. And then the next day it would be like they seemed like they got stronger as they approached. So I got to learn a lot just by the observation, but that sparked and piqued an interest that has been with me my whole life. I look up in the sky even today, and I always think, how can I put together this puzzle that is our atmosphere? And that's what led me to this career.
Did you have some mentors that were special along the way?
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to. I think my mom, because she's a neonatal nurse practitioner, she really showed me that women can be in science. Granted, hers was a very different type of science that I have no interest in medicine. But I think I was lucky to have her because she was also very much you dream it, you do it. I knew I loved the weather. I definitely saw meteorologists on TV, but I had zero interest in doing this. I was way too shy. And it wasn't until I saw the movie Twister that I saw what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Helen Hunt's character, Jo. And so that, we say representation matters. To see a woman leading the charge and being this awesome scientist, even if that wasn't real, because I don't know, well, believe me, Twister's horribly inaccurate, that,
Yes.
scientifically, but it did give me a vision or an image of what I could be. And so I went and found a college where I would storm chase. And that's where I started meeting mentors. One of my professors, John Knox, is a mentor to this day.
Sure.
He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He saw that I would be good at communicating the science of weather. And if it were left up to me, I would not be standing right here or sitting right here in front of you. I would have been hiding like I was from the camera most of the time. So he told me go do an internship. And that's where I met my second mentor, and that is James Spann, who is a king in the weather industry.
Yes.
And when we talk about, you have to try hard, you have to sacrifice all these things for this career, I do think fortune is part of it. Me having that internship with him specifically made me not just want to be Helen Hunt, but I wanted to be like Helen Hunt had a baby with James Spann. And that's kind of what I've become.
Yes, James Spann. I'll have to tell our friends at Women Helping Women Fund is a king in
Yes.
Meteorology. So that must have been an amazing experience. And does that now lead you to look for opportunities to mentor others, knowing how important those people were to you?
It's one of my favorite things to do, because after I had that experience and I changed my whole path to be in broadcast meteorology, even though I just studied meteorology and storm chasing, I actually didn't study any communications whatsoever. I really realized how many more people it would have taken to give me the support I probably needed. And so when I was working in Chicago, I became an adjunct professor at my alma mater. And that's where I started mentoring and haven't stopped. And even today, I got a direct message from a stranger on Instagram, and she said, would you mind watching my reel? And I thought, of course I will. Anybody, because I wish I would have had that person to bounce ideas off and to have. You need that person to help lead you through. We're all going into this blind, the world really, but especially this broadcasting meteorology. So I'm so grateful to be able to be that. And in the end, whatever interaction I have with that young lady who sent me her reel today will help me too. So on the other side, I've found great benefit on a selfish part for when I mentor.
Well, and Ginger, I have to say that I have heard for years now from various women in the industry, how kind you have been to them and helpful and big sisterly. And so I know you're not just saying that. Your reputation as being a leader for women in the sciences is strong.
I hope so. And that's maybe where television hasn't been as strong in the past because, and I think where I and others are unique is that I guess I know my science, I know my job, and I also have learned in years of therapy that this is a business that's subjective. So if my boss wants to put in this young lady that direct messaged me, today instead of me, that's not up to me. I can't really change that. All I can do is work as hard as I can, help her along the way because I'd like someone like her to be a part of my team and then build a team because it's so easy to feel envy and jealousy in all of life, but especially where we're selling ourselves, and that's what we do for this job. I had to flip that around and I've never felt it within like mentoring. It's hard once, I'm sure out in the newsroom and such, it was almost bred into the culture. I think we've really passed that. We have to be.
Absolutely. No, and as a younger meteorologist, I felt that a lot more than age gives you a certain amount of wisdom, doesn't it?
It does. And do you know what else helped? And I will, like, this is the funny part is I often was the only woman because there aren't a lot of women in meteorology. So within our department, I didn't feel it as much. And so maybe that saved me from a lot of it and taught me a better way. And that is to envelop and hug and hold all of the people who, you want to help on the way up because there wasn't as much competition. Maybe that was part of it too. I don't want to take away from it, but
no, that is a really good point. You obviously are seeped in the science of meteorology, and it is interesting watching you how you'll be talking about a storm or talking about a weather phenomenon, and somehow the public wants to veer the conversation off to hair, looks, weight, clothes. That must be surreal at times.
It is. I'm so used to it now that when it doesn't happen, I almost think, what did I do different today? But what I always try to turn it around is make sure they're factually correct with whatever they're saying. Like one of my favorites is, "You're the ugliest weather girl I've ever seen." And I wrote back, "Oh, actually, I'm the ugliest meteorologist you've ever seen." So like, I just want to make sure we're clear because you can have an opinion. You're more than welcome to that. But as long as the fact part is correct. And I try to use it as an educational moment for maybe others that are feeling or thinking the same. But on the other side, I think if that's what got them to pay attention maybe a little bit to who's going to be having giant hail and tornadoes today, okay. If that's what it takes. But this is something I've noticed with my climate change coverage is I can post this really great, video that I've worked 7 days straight on, and I put so much of my heart and soul and my writing into, and then I'll get like 2 comments. I put up a picture of, I don't know, just me doing the weather on the wall, and it's going to get that much more, and they're all going to be about my appearance. So I think it's a strange catch-22. I don't think societally, and actually Billie Eilish story that we had on today about her saying, listen, I felt like being more exposed today. Tomorrow I might put on my baggy t-shirt and jeans. That shouldn't change how you respect me. I really like that thought. What we can use fashion and style as a part of who we are, but it shouldn't determine our respect level, our ability to be scientists. And at the end of the day, I would love to stay looking like I feel comfortable looking like this. And then have young people or anybody societally to look at a picture and say, what does a scientist look like? I'd love for the image to sometimes be me, because that's what we really don't have. I think if you put multiple choice and Albert Einstein was in there and I was in there, I'm going to guess that people are going to pick Albert Einstein, and that's fine. But I think knowing that a scientist and all humans have the ability, no matter what they look like, to be a scientist would be a great place to get.
I look forward to that day. And
Yes.
boy, something that our male colleagues do not have to even give a second thought to.
No, and you know that I think a lot about this, especially because recently I've been wearing my natural curly hair and that got
Love it.
so much more attention. Thank you. It's not something that I ever felt confident doing because of, frankly, news directors a lot of times telling me that it just wasn't appropriate. And I think a lot about this of why is the curl pattern of your hair professional or not professional? If it looks nice, how is that, where have we gone? And I really think it's time of women in the workplace. We don't have a big breadth of data. We don't have, we're talking about 70 years. And this is the scientist and the statistician or something in me, but I'm trying to give society grace in that and be like, there've only been one or two other times where people have fashionably worn their hair naturally curly or whatever it ends up being, but not really. And, and we don't have a lot of time to go on. And especially women in television, now we're talking only 50 years because you have to go to the 70s, and that's thinking about, this is, I'm sure you do this too, how far we've come from when the weather was done by a puppet, truly like a puppet, right? And television is part of the problem here. It's like where it started, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
So sometimes when things go that way in the conversation, I try to give people grace and think maybe they grew up watching a puppet. And that's it.
That is very true, which brings me to my next question. I'm 12, 13 years older than you, and getting into the business when I did, we had to project perfectionism. We had the helmet hair, the business suits, my life is perfect. And, here is your perfect forecast. And so this little jam was really refreshing. Natural disaster. I cover them. I am one, detailing your battles with things that people battle with. I mean, we all, if I could tell everybody all the crap I've been through in my life, it would be a tome about this big or bigger. That must have been very just liberating to take that mask off and show the world that you're a real person, not some sort of broadcasting android.
Yeah, and it was frightening at the beginning and then liberating, and now I would say healing. And that's the beauty of it. Again, I'm turning it back on how it's benefited, but it really has benefited me along with the connection I've been able to make with real people. And so I will still get direct messages or emails or messages from wherever today. Today, people are still reading the book, 4 years later, saying, anything from this brought me what I needed today to you saved my life. Like, it's amazing what your words can do and the stories that we can share with each other of imperfection, of disastrous mess, which is me. And like you said, that's not it. And that's why I wrote a whole nother book, because as we go, we're the ones that define our own narrative. And I was getting caught in that vacuum of what that people pleasing, television expectation. And how lucky am I that I had the opportunity to get help to get out of there. I used like my interactions on social media to learn the tools that I now use in my real life. Like I use something called the fence, where I'm able to say, well, that's very nice that he thinks I'm the ugliest meteorologist, but I don't think so, right? And to create my own feelings on the other side of the fence and keep that person's over there. Simple things like that can then apply to your personal relationships. And I feel like and then all the way to the natural disasters, like when I'm in Hurricane Katrina, and the real life lessons I'm learning about gratitude in storms like that, how lucky I am to have all these experiences. And then that's why I wanted to share them in the book.
I am, I need to work on my fence.
Yes,
the online bullying of really anybody now, not just people on TV, but boy, it is rough out there, Ginger.
Yeah, it is. And that's, but see, now I think I've mastered it, probably to a bad point, where again, if I wake up and I don't get too many mean tweets, I'm like, oh, what's wrong today? They're highly entertaining. I put them in some of them are just solid work and very creative with how mean people can be. But I think that you're right in saying everybody's in the same position now. And so thankfully I have 20 years now of these mean, folks online to be able to share my tools of how to create your own self-awareness, and I'm sure you have too. There are certain topics that I think are harder when someone comes at me about parenting, for instance, something
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not as confident with. I am vulnerable because they're young and I don't know what I'm doing, because nobody does. So I'm able to back up. But the other ones, I mean, you could really say anything to me at this point about me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's very nice. And then I can move on. If they try to say, well, why are you flying again? You shouldn't become a mother because you never see your children. I'm like, all right, okay, let's go ahead.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, but my point is too, is everybody that has the bully also has the fan, not just the people on TV, but this is what I love to remind kids and teenagers who are going through it. You have fans, you have a team, you have people who believe in you, who love you. And if you can just slide the gravity or the emphasis over to the fans instead of to the negative, I think that could be so powerful in people's lives.
Absolutely. Now you have just talk, you're in such a amazing place that I know you've worked very hard on your mental health and are an advocate for others. How has the last year working from home and the COVID crisis, where you are, how has that challenged that?
I've learned that I am a really good depressive person. That's what I've been working on for most of my life in therapy. So I know the tools to deal with depression. What this pandemic brought for me was a glimpse into a lot of other people's problem, and that's anxiety. With the unknown being everywhere around us, granted, I live in a very, somebody said we're all in the same storm in very different boats, which is true. I'm privileged to be able to have the ability to have help, to have support, and all those things. I started having what I now know is anxiety, but had never felt before. And I've had to learn a lot. It's been a huge education for me, especially and helpful because my mother and my husband are both anxious people. And I never understood it. I'd be like, what is going on with you? Like, why? I find anxiety to be much more difficult than depression. That's what I've learned so far. But a lot of the tools end up being the same. And I talk to my therapist as if it is a personal trainer. I always say this, but our mental health needs to be just like our physical health. We need to put all of the hard work in. You also can't just go to a trainer for 2 months, get in really great shape, and then stop, and then it all sticks. That's not how mental health works either. So I have been extremely committed to having, and the virtual thing has helped, to doing the personal mental trainer, my therapist, every week. I do daily mental therapy, meaning exercise, which is hitting both, but for me, it's kind of the yoga or Pilates, right? And then
Yeah.
the journaling and the meditation, and those are like the sit-ups for the brain, I always say. So it feels like I have tried to move the needle on. I used to pour all of my energy and time and money into physical health. I have tried to say to myself, what today am I going to spend my time, money, and effort into my mental health? And that has made all the difference.
Well, your perspective, I can tell how hard you work on that. I feel like I'm getting a lesson here. That quote about we are all in the same storm in different boats, that is brilliant. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to remember that one. You have a new book. Tell us, when is that? When can we get our hands on that?
Yeah, October. It comes out, I think it's October 12th. So it feels like forever away. I've been writing it. I really dove in during the pandemic when I wasn't traveling as much. And as the first book went, I never went to write the first book in the first place. I wanted to write a baby book about weather. And then when I went and started talking to these publishers, they were like, wait a minute, that story is your life? You should write that as a book. And so I went to write a baby book about rainbows and sunshine, and I came out writing an adult memoir about depression and suicide. So not what the intent was, but this second book had kind of the same trajectory. The first one went well. They said, how about you write this for parents and younger people who are going through this? I started doing that. And as I did it, a couple of really big traumas of my life that I hadn't written about, nor had I really attended to, started coming out. And that's what this book goes into. It's the hard work of realizing that there may still be more, even after you wrote a book about it. As it's not that I was holding back anything. I actually hadn't attended to it yet. And so to be able to uncover those scars, that I had filled with dirt and, just pushed away for so long, to be able to open those up again. And then hopefully with the self-deprecating humor and things that you'll find in the first book, to tell the story of how I work every day to heal, instead of just saying, and now you're healed. That's what the second book is really about. I had such great response with all the tools. People were like, and I always say this, but I'm so lucky that I had the financial ability, the support from my family, and the access to care this whole time. There are people who don't have that. And if these books can help somebody have just a glimpse into what I've been able to learn over the last 2 decades of the therapy that, can cost way too much. Hey, if that fence tool can help somebody that doesn't have the ability, great. And then beyond there, if it can just wake someone up and say, I really do need help, I think that's just the beginning.
You mentioned the support of your family. Tell us a little bit about your household. We get lovely glimpses of it here and there, of your beautiful boys and your hilarious husband. It looks like it is just a party there every day.
Oh, I never knew that I deserved this joy. And now that I'm living in it and I've healed to the point where I know not only I deserve it, but I'm so much more grateful every moment that I have it is never lost on me, because and that's maybe where the anxiety comes, because now I have this thing that I love and care about so much, and you don't want to lose it. And I'm like, oh, that's what they feel. I never had that before. So yes, this house is wild. Adrian's 5, Miles is 3. They're just starting to do like gymnastics, dance, t-ball. I'm already that parent with my husband, and the help that we have between our nanny and when our grandparents fly in, now that they have vaccines, thankfully. So it's wild and it's fun, and it's everything that I thought wasn't possible. And I like saying it that way, because there's so many times, especially early in my career, where I'd be on a plane again for the 30th day of work in a row, and I would see a family get on, and my eyes would immediately fill with tears, because I would think, well, I can't have both. I can't have this and that, and I didn't know if I deserved it, or I didn't deserve love. And to be able to grow and really be living this, and instead of just feeling like, let's not talk about it, I am so happy. And I like to share that, because even people who are just single or haven't met the right person or had a bad, like I did, abusive relationship, sometimes you can't see the future. And I think that it's helpful to know that there is one out there, and every day brings you something new and different, and it can be very good.
Well, and I would have to bet there's someone in our Women Helping Women Fund audience watching this now, thinking that they are in that place, and you are a bright, shining ray of hope to all of them. So thank you.
Yeah. And I will say this too, because one of my favorite things, I don't use Facebook that often, but when I see it, one of my favorite things is on this day, or the memory tool. And I'll see memories that I can tell my attitude at that moment was, oh, great, everybody's engaged and having babies, and I'm never going to have that. Like whatever I was typing meant that. I found one just like that about 8 days before I met my husband. And I looked at the date, and then I shared that, and I thought, people need to know that. People need to know I was all spiteful and sassy and, feeling down on myself, kicking rocks, because I just couldn't get it together. And then I met him, just that hope or sunshine that comes after storms. You can't forget it.
Wow. And that was recent history, because Facebook isn't that old. So
No.
you have come a long way in a short period of time. So that is another sign of hope for people. Well, Ginger, we are so grateful for your time today, sharing your wisdom. We will get that book, and we just love you here in Spokane and at 4 News Now, the ABC affiliate here. Hopefully someday, when things get a little more open, we can host you in person.
Oh, that's one of my dreams. That is a place that I need to spend more time. I've only ever been to the Cascades, not ever. Like, I really haven't gotten enough Pacific Northwest in me, is what I'm saying. So I'm there.
Oh, good. Well, good. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much.
In 1992, a group of 6 pioneering women met for lunch. They were concerned about the growing needs of women and children locally and knew they needed to do something to help. Immediately after lunch, they stopped by a law firm and incorporated a new nonprofit, Women Helping Women Fund, and then began planning how to make a difference. Today, in the spirit of our founders, we ask that you don't wait to make a difference. Now let me tell you a story about one of our Vivian Winston Scholarship recipients. She spent 7 years alone with her son in a refugee camp in Kenya before joining her husband in the US. She is only 2 classes shy of completing her nursing prerequisites and works as a certified nursing assistant locally. The couple recently welcomed triplets, and the cost of childcare is overwhelming. Your support will help offset the cost of tuition and childcare so she can fulfill her dream of becoming a nurse and then a nurse practitioner. Your contribution ensures that we collectively make a difference in the lives of women and children.
Attendees at the very first luncheon were asked to donate $100 each, an uncommon ask at that time. Our co-founder, Mari Clack, asked them that they stretch more. And now, 29 years later, we ask that you give at a level that stretches you. Our community is counting on us now more than ever. Join us at Women Helping Women Fund as grant makers, change makers, and go-getters. We're building a new kind of giving community, and we want you to be a part of it. For just $25 to $50 a month, you can make a significant difference locally and increase your impact. If becoming a member isn't for you, you can also make a big difference today with a one-time gift. Every dollar adds up to great things. Give what you can, make a difference today, and change tomorrow. Thank you so much for your past, present, and future support of Women Helping Women Fund and helping the women and children of Spokane bloom big.